Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of the Renegade Animation Podcast on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere where there are podcasts. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world of animation that may, come with some common side effects. And a huge victory for Coyote versus Acme. Anyway, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And we got a great show for you tonight. We are finally talking about the first season of Common Side Effects. But before we do, there is something we must celebrate. After years of sitting on the shelf, Warner Brothers has finally made a deal with Catch Up Entertainment for $50 million to distribute Coyote versus Acme.
Warner Brothers is not the hero here. They're the villains. They just cracked under pressure since the ongoing success of The Day the Earth Blew Up, which shows people still want Looney Tunes
Hmm.
and not just live action nonsense, even though I'm so excited to see Coyote versus Acme. Catch-Up Entertainment's the real savior here for putting their heels down, buckling up, and saying, hey, let's make a deal. Let's buy this movie from you since you are not interested at all, since you apparently thought The Alternites was a good idea. And who knows, maybe that film's failure is a sign of Zaslav not getting his way, because that whole thing was just a nepotistic mess
Yeah.
of just Hollywood nonsense. And since it's dying at the box office and getting panned left and right, who knows? Maybe investors told him, like, hey, if you need money, just sell the damn movie. You're not going to get much money from a tax write off of this thing. And plus, nobody likes you. The only reason you're still making money is because you're relying heavily on the reality TV side of the company that for some reason thinking we need a Paul Brothers reality show, but I digress. The matter of fact is, it is wonderful that a movie is not getting shelved or written off for tax reasons, and people will finally be able to see this. I think they said they're aiming for a 2026 release.
Yeah, we don't have like a proper release date yet, but overall, I am just happy that this movie is finally seeing the light of day. I'll figure out when like the right time to release this is later. For now, I just want to celebrate the fact that people can actually see the damn thing.
It's just like Zaslav is such a terrible, sinister, ugly, like metaphorically ugly person. A reckless, uncaring nature towards the arts. And that it's like, oh, is this animation? Well, we can write that off because you know what's going to make us money? That development limbo Flash movie. Just let that sink in. Zaslav, in all of his uncreative bankruptcy, thought the Flash and the Alto Knights were going to be the big breadwinners and not what things that people were actually looking forward to and actually wanted. That's just a big problem with a bunch of these people running these studios. They have no idea what the public actually wants. They think, oh, since we're making all the money, we know what's best. And it's like, no, you don't. If you knew what's best, then you wouldn't have had that catastrophic 2023 where all of your DC comic superhero movies died at the box office, barring any actual note of quality to them. It's just like maybe catch up can just go buy the other ones. Maybe other studios can be like, hey, you got a few other shelved movies like that Batgirl movie that people want to see, or some of those animated projects that you don't want to fully fund or release. How about you give them to us, like Catch Up Entertainment or I don't know, like G Kids? I don't know, man. It's so a weird time right now, and I'm just so happy that Coyote versus Acme gets released. It's going to be great to finally see that. I don't even care if it ends up sucking. I just want to see it.
That's where I'm at too. For all we know, it could not live up to expectations, but that's not the farthest thing from the point. Art should be available for the public to judge. It shouldn't be locked away in a vault for nobody to see.
Exactly. It just feels like a whole bunch of stress just left everyone's body, where everyone is like, hooray, now they get to finish the movie, and we all finally get to see it. Who knows? Depending on how far along it was in production, maybe I'll see it during animation is filmed this year. I don't think I will. I wouldn't bet anything on it, but it would be great. But for now, we must talk about some common side effects that come with this great animation news. Because now we get to talk about possibly the best animated show of 2025 so far this year that probably won't be beat. Common side effects. I remember the announcement for this show. It was really interesting to see a bunch of people creatively from stuff like 30 Rock, Parks and Rec, The Good Place and such, and either the studios and or the people who helped craft Scavenger's Reign, which was that 2023 also? Scavenger's Reign?
I think that was 22. It might have been 23.
Let's see here.
Yeah, it was 23.
Yeah, just one of the best shows from 2 years ago. It's also weird because let's just get this news out of the way. Common Side Effects had a side effect of getting greenlit for a second season. In an era right now where studios are so afraid, where their butts are clenching at the actual prospect of, oh man, I don't know if we want to greenlight light another season. That means we have to spend money. But people showed up for common side effects. I don't know what it is or what it was that brought these people to actually watch a new original non-based on an IP or pre-existing thing show, but people showed up for it, which is has been like the biggest battle for us to talk about, for saying like, hey, animation fans, well, the studios need to do better about marketing and releasing this stuff. Y'all need to start showing up. And yet people really wouldn't, or in this case, they did.
Oh, yeah, they did.
To get a second season that was just greenlit as of recording this a few days ago, I wonder what changed. Maybe there is just a new hunger for animation that people want to see new things. Obviously, this not being just another raunchy adult comedy helped, but even then, Scavenger's Reign wasn't an adult raunchy comedy, and nobody showed up for that show. But for some reason, this dramedy conspiracy thriller, like medical thing, people showed up for, and it had like a very weird like art style with these giant head, small body character designs, this dry sense of humor. And who knows, maybe it helped that they had Mike Judge and Greg Daniels as executive producers who said like, hey, we could absolutely use more shows like this, so do not cancel us. Give us another season. I mean, like, we haven't even talked about the show itself yet. And yet I am so amazed that people showed up for it.
I have a feeling that part of that has to be Mike Judge and Greg Daniels' involvement because those are pretty big names when it comes to adult animation.
And Greg Daniels was also a major writer for stuff like The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live and helping adapting The Office for the United States. So, what happened? What do you think made people actually show up for this show?
I think another thing that may have helped is just the subject matter.
Yeah, so Common Side Effects was created by Joseph Bennett and Steve Helly, who Steve Helly was a writer for shows like The Late Show with David Letterman, Last Call with Carson Daly, and also worked on stuff like American Dad, 30 Rock, The Office. And it's a medical dramedy thriller about two high school friends, Marshall and Francis. They reconnect after Marshall discovers the blue angel mushroom, a mushroom with healing effects that can allegedly cure all illnesses. In the process, they also uncover a conspiracy involving Rutical Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, and the government to suppress all knowledge of said mushroom. And despite the fact that this has a very wonky looking art direction, I remember some of our friends saying like this looks like something the animation YouTuber Worthy Kids would have crafted. And it absolutely does. If you know anything about his like design work and style, he's known for doing those like big heads, small bodies art directions for his shorts. Maybe this being a medical drama, I think this came out possibly at the right place at the right time, especially with right now with what's going on with the US and just everyone worrying if they're going to be able to pay their medical bills or get their medicine and such. Everyone wanted a show about the possible chance of someone finding a new magical cure all and want to stick it to the big pharmaceutical companies. And before people start worrying about where this story goes, do not think that this is going to go into some pro Joe Rogan nonsense.
Yeah, no,
It
it's not anything even close to that.
no, this show probably would condemn and hate Joe Rogan and his audience. The big commentary point of this show is the it's not modern medicine itself or saying that alternative medicine is better and superior. It's the side of the medical industry where the corporate capitalist side of things have taken over and have made everyone's life a living hell because we all have to pay for health insurance and some of us have to pay for extremely expensive medicine when it shouldn't be expensive for anyone to keep living. It's biting back at the people who are like, wow, we got a magical known cure all. How much money should we charge for it? Or you get the big corporate pharmaceutical like CEO who the Jonas Backstein, the Swiss financier and board member of Rutical, who's voiced by the very great Danny Huston, where he's like, you know what? If this is such a miracle cure, we shouldn't greenlight it. We shouldn't fund it because then that means we lose money and where people don't need us anymore. They can go grab this magic mushroom and cure themselves, supposedly. And I mean, that's really what it is. It's biting at both sides of the extreme side of the pharmaceutical companies and industry, and the extreme side of like free form medicine.
That's actually really what I like about this show is that all of these characters, even Marshall, they all have like shades of gray morality. There's no one here who's like fully on the side of good because there's always a counterpoint that they have to challenge.
Like honestly, the big deal, like the outcome of what should happen with this mushroom is that yes, they do need to test it because yes, it is supposedly curing every little bit about someone's illness, but it's also giving everyone who takes it extremely psychotic side effects of seeing these little gray men that pop up everywhere, that they show up right when they cure you and then they just hang out around your peripheral vision. The perfect example of this is Marshall using one of the mushrooms on a car accident victim. And the car accident victim comes back episodes later extremely paranoid because the mushrooms caused him to start seeing things, being paranoid and all that stuff. It's a sign of this mushroom needs to be tested. Maybe go through a few trial runs and see if you can either negate or tone down the psychosis that comes with having this mushroom. It's like the first line you hear from this exact show is, well, yeah, the diarrhea is a better side effect than the depression and suicide. This show has such a wildly dry sense of humor, and I love it. People just talk so naturally while saying some of the most either mundane or ridiculous things.
And I think it helps when the CEO of Reunical is voiced by Hank Hill himself, Mike Judge.
It was so weird to hear him talk through like another character because I'm so used to his work as Hank Hill and then of course his work in Beavis and Butthead. To hear what if Hank Hill got a soul crushing corporate job and the result is Rick Kruger. And I love so many of his lines, like especially when they're going over the adult diapers ad at the beginning of the show, and he's just like, "Well, can we speed the side effects up?" And then it speeds up to like quick, tiny hyper talk. It's like, no, 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 slow that back down. That sounded like an elf. Okay, what's this about the ice chips? Okay, cut that out. We don't need someone choking on an ice chip and then suing us. Or like when he's at the hotel and he is not paying attention to France's proposition and or call to action of needing to go help Marshall with this all-knowing cure-all mushroom. And she's just like, listen, I can't help you right now. Why don't you ask one of the many, like one of the 1,300 employees that you boss around? And he's like, right, right, right. And I'm supposed to get down to 1,100. Can you write down the list of the 200 worst employees for me? Or at the very end, he's like, before you go, can you like help my TV here and get it off of the channel with all the hotel stuff on it? She's like, no, I don't have time. Right, right. I'll figure something out because, no one wants to deal with the hotel TV information.
He's so pathetic, but that's what makes him entertaining.
And at first, I thought he was going to be like a good guy, like he was going to join Francis and Marshall on the journey to make this new cure-all work. Except he slips right back into the corporate head when he realizes that, like, screw it, let's go over Jonas Backstein's back and figure out a way to make this fungus cure-all work and make it like part of food and such. We can get away from it, like offshore bank accounts, or let's find a building to make our home base in a state where they can't sue us. It is sad to see him go right back into corporate CEO talk when he was so close to seeing just how evil the medical industry can be in terms of when you have a bunch of Wall Street execs running things. Like, we literally had a Jonas Backstein character in real life when that one smarmy asshole was thinking about like charging 500 times more for some kind of medicine and such for people who have diabetes, then got arrested for it and sent to jail for it. I don't know how many people remember that, but these people exist. That's the thing. This show is very much out there, but it is grounded enough to make people know or react or reference the fact that people like this exist.
hmm The subject matter is based in reality. The only times it deviates from reality is when it does things that animation can do, but live action can't. All of the hallucinations, that's the stuff that you can definitely tell this is from the same people who did Scavenger's Reign.
The vibrant animation, like Everything is a little more muted than Scavenger's Reign, but there's still a lot of great moments, especially with the moments where everyone is tripping out, is when like all the color pops and the little gray men that people see within taking the mushroom turn into particles and such. It's a very beautiful looking show. Yes, it has a weird human design direction, but it works because the writing is there. People don't mind odd or different art styles. What they care about is the writing that comes with it. These are some good characters. Marshall is a very compelling protagonist. He just wants to do the right thing and realizes that both sides of the spectrum have their faults and you do need to compromise or find some way for the mushroom to be used legally and in a way that won't harm people, but won't be used in a way where giant medical corporate executives aren't just thinking about how much can we sell this so I can buy three more yachts.
Yep.
And I guess some people might argue this could come off very centrist, but at the same time, we need testing. The problem is that the government hasn't been able to do, great morally ethical testing and such. Which when you change that, then it's like, okay, we're heading somewhere. We can like when you can have ethical testing of medical solutions for people and injuries and what have you, then we can like start figuring things out. But I like that Marshall doesn't go completely off the rails as a conspiracy nut. It would have been so easy for him to, especially with his design, with the open shirt, shorts, and the hat on his head. I like that. And even though him and Francis do kind of end up as not really a couple, like a good friendship and such.
I would call them friends or something a little bit more than that because they do have a strong bond thanks to their shared experience with the mushroom.
They do. With Francis, like she doesn't really believe in the mushroom's powers until she thinks, what if I give it to my mom who has dementia? And we see that the mushroom itself will cure pretty much anything with the common side effects of seeing little gray men walking around. But it doesn't quite an all-in-one cure for everything since spoilers, Francis's mom climbs a tree and then falls to her death when a branch breaks because the psychosis side of the mushroom pushed her to keep climbing until she hit a weak spot in the tree.
By the way, I didn't know that was Lin Shaye as the voice of Sonia. That's good casting right there.
There's a lot of really good casting here. It's a very grounded cast. Like there's Shalita Grant, Bob Stevenson, Timothy Simons, and Andy Daly, Nicholas Cantu as like guest stars. But for the main cast, like Dave King is mostly a writer. He's not an actor. Like, or I wouldn't call his main forte acting, but he brings a more natural, normal voice to Marshall. It could have been easy to just give him some high pitch, annoying conspiracy nut voice, but Dave King just makes him sound like an awkward person, and that's it. Like a harmless, well-meaning but awkward person. Like Emily Pendergast is great as Frances. I love her grounded, real reactions to everything, and I love Agent Capano and Harrington, who are voiced by Joseph Lee Anderson and Martha Kelly. I love seeing Martha Kelly here because not only was she in Baskets, but she was also in Carol and the End of the World from 2 years ago. One of my
She was
favorite
so good.
shows. I love their platonic friendship between one another and how the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration says, like, you got to send your best agents, right? Yeah, I'm going to send Copano and Harrington. Are they your best? And it shows them dancing while Harrington is getting a hot dog. and they're just like having a great time listening to Harry Belafonte. And then it cuts back to the guy being like, yes, best agents. Like we've said with Mike Judge as Rick Kruger, he is so just done with everything. Like he is so tired and stressed out about trying to save the company, and then gets a new lease on life with realizing what the mushroom can do, and just turns back into another corporate head. But then we also have people like Ben Feldman, who a lot of people would know from Superstore, who played Francis's boyfriend. And like we talked about, Danny Huston, Sidney Poitier, Sue Rose, Lynn Shay was so good. Shannon Woodard was also very good. Christian Coe, Alan Resnick was also in this. They found a group of very funny people, and yet they still had such grounded performances. Nobody goes out of their way to be cartoony when they could have easily done so, but they acted like they were in a dry dramedy. And everyone was on the same page, which is something you want with a show or film with a high concept like this.
Indeed.
The animation, man, like some part of me wonders it like how much of this was done with help from the folks at like who helped craft Scavenger's Reign, because it has a lot of that same limited animation but also vibrant weirdness that comes with it. It's just a great looking show. I don't even care when it gets a little wonky looking at points, when they do stuff like have filtered live action footage through like some kind of 2D filter and such.
Those moments are a little bit jarring, but they're so few and far between that it's not really that much of a deal breaker. Everything else looks just incredible.
Yeah, Green Street Pictures helped on both shows. I liked the ethereal like soundtrack to everything. I just really like this show. It's a show that sparks excitement into me with, wow, someone wanted to make an animated show, and they didn't want to just make another adult comedy, and they wanted to tackle heavier or headier subject matter but not back out of it. There are adult shows like Big Mouth and such that want to tackle more interesting and human concepts like toxic masculinity, puberty, sex, gender identity, and such. But it never can or could do that. What happened was, like with that show, is that it fell back a bit too hard on the raunchy comedy side of things, to where whatever emotional key point or character arcs that happen are always getting overshadowed just so they can pop out another gross joke and such.
This one stays pretty committed to the story that it wants to tell. And honestly, once you watch like the first two episodes, you're just in for this ride.
For a show that's only 30 minutes and 10 episodes, it moves at a very brisk pace. You get so enthralled and pulled into the show that you become like a deer in headlights when you realize that the credits started rolling. It's like, wait, how long were these episodes? 23 minutes? They waste no time. It's economic production where they were able to pace out the show to how they wanted it. And there was never a point where it was like, maybe they could have cut an episode or so to keep the ball rolling. I mean, that's a problem with some streaming shows that even if I like them, the recent Netflix series, The Residents, I love that quirky clue like murder mystery show. But part of me is like, did this need to be 8 episodes? Did we really need to have this gigantic cast? Which part of the point of that is, yeah, it's a murder mystery, but the way it's paced made me like squirm sometimes. Like I don't want to feel like I want to check my phone when I'm watching a show I like or a movie I like. And with common side effects, you forget that you have your phone on you.
Yep.
And that's so rare for not just an animated show or a show in general or a show aimed at whatever audience. When you're just glued to see everything unfold or unravel, and then it's like you're completely caught off guard by the end credits. And that's not to say that this show isn't funny. It is very funny. It's just not going to be loud and in your face about it.
Like we've kind of been describing before, it has a very dry sense of humor where you may chuckle at a joke here and there, but the comedy is definitely more natural. It's character focused. Some of these characters are just kind of weird, like Zane, Marshall's half brother, who runs the pet store.
Oh yeah, you mean the guy who takes a drug to finally become hyper focused to help the best tortoise in the world, Socrates? No, he's very weird, but he's also very funny at points. It's like, please don't flush my fish. I mean, you can flush that one, but please don't flush my lionfish. It's like he's like, don't flush him. Okay, you can flush that one. But I don't know what else I can say. It's just I like this show. It grips me. It's during a time where as much as I like seeing shows new and returning as they keep coming back or are arriving on our plates, it's tough to always feel like they're gripping you at like every step of the way. There's never a point in some shows where I'm like, wow, I am feeling the runtime. And yet for common side effects, it's one of the few shows from like the since we've been doing these podcasts where you just sit there and you just absorb it. You just let it all run.
Hmm.
It's just a great show. I don't have much else to say about it. It's a very compelling story adventure of what happens when we find that miracle cure all and how do we ethically and without bankrupting people make it work, or is this magical cure all actually the like something that we should mess with?
There is something that Jonas says to Rick. He's like, are you sure you want to do this? You want to play God and like disrupt the system?
Jonas does it in a way which keeps the bankability of the medical industry with giving them all huge bundles of money until he actually needs it. He finds out he has some like deep level of cancer or some medical disease. And then he's like, wait a minute, I want that mushroom. And boy, howdy, does he not think, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't eat a whole bunch of these, because then he goes out into the most nightmare fueled drug trip that out of like every other character in this show, he basically like vomits out a deformed baby version of himself while on this drug trip.
It is an image that I will not be getting out of my head anytime soon.
This could have been like a Halloween series in a way, like not, Halloween, but more like it has a slight hint of horror in its overall body of atmosphere and such, because it is unsettling. How would you feel taking one of those mushrooms and just looking over and there's a little gray man looking at you and then he claps and that's when you're cured, but now you're stuck with these hallucinations of who knows what those things are. I am so happy there's a second season because it sets itself up to continue the story, because we see the morality side of going full on free medicine and the extreme side of big pharma, and see Marshall and Francis struggle to find a happy medium or happy ending for it all. And yet they don't quite answer a whole lot about I don't even think like do they mention at any point the little gray men that show up? I forgot.
I don't think like anyone really like addresses the little gray people, but I feel like that's we're gonna start to unpack that in season two. Like we'll probably find out more about how the portal works, how Marshall and Francis were able to communicate with each other, and other things. There's so many intricate details that season two can dive into that they just didn't have time for in the first season.
Yeah, I would love to see more because they don't set up enough to they didn't answer everything. So that means there is enough to do another season and maybe we'll find some new answers and whatever. Like it's exciting instead of being like oh, this is getting another season. Okay, there's no real direction to go, I guess. But no, I'm so excited. I want to see more. There needs to be more. I just haven't been this excited for a TV show in forever. I can't fully recall or think when was the last time I was excited for a TV show and such. So,
A similar show that I was pretty excited for was Inside Job, and
oh,
that's
yeah,
kind of what Common Side Effects reminds me of. I don't want to go as far to say this is like a spiritual successor, but it does have slightly similar elements.
exactly. So, man, I'm just so happy that we got to talk about this. I was a little worried about where it was going to go at all points, but with its mix of drama, comedy, action, existential dread, it's so cool. And to see it get a second season, hopefully WBD doesn't backtrack on it. But it's exciting because we are still in a time period where there's just not a whole lot happening with animation. And just to hear that it's like, oh, the creator of some of your favorite shows is going back into the well to make a new show, like from that same property, or like JG Quintel's like side of things, where instead of getting more or having a satisfying end to close enough, he's just going to be working on another version of the regular show. And it's like, okay. So to see common side effects succeed where a lot of shows can't or won't, it makes me happy. So hopefully this isn't the end of animation recovering because I want to see more. I want to see more shows like this. I want to see animation thrive.
Same. I genuinely believe that the success of Common Side Effects is going to embolden other networks, or maybe it's just Adult Swim who's like, hey, that new idea you have, let's develop that.
Exactly. So that's really all that we have for right now, though. So yeah, if you haven't seen Common Side Effects, all 10 episodes are on Max, or hopefully you've been watching them on TV and such. It's just good to have a show succeed. And we'll just have to see what happens from there. Until then, I think the next thing we'll be talking about is some radical demon slaying with Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to that. But until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky at camsideview.biz. I have a website called camsideview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am also a contributor to Media Magpies, where your new stop for pop culture and media conversations. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsideview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterbox.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.